Somewhere in rural out there, a spaceship appears.
No indication of nationality, no name or number, nothing but a skull wearing dark glasses.
Go get yourself some cheap sunglasses.
They help the pilot see what he's stealing.
A locomotive comes into frame.
Next, he takes a condemned building. Is this a zombie game where you can take two weird things like that and make something even weirder by combining them?
Okay, Wonder Dog, back in the basket.
Come on, Twinkle Toes, now!
If he expects those wheels to hold up his multi-room condemned locomotive, he's going to be surprised. The Colonel is telling the Super Friends about the UFO.
Anything that could do that would have to be...
Yes? Go on.
I was going to say a white dwarf, Colonel.
A white dwarf. That would do it, all right.
As it happens, the entire staff at the National Observatory thinks so, too. Would you check it out?
Sounds like fun. You have data for us?
Coming up right now.
Wendy, there is something going on.
Let's tell him about the bike.
Hold it a minute, you two.
Do they ever get a gut full of being treated like that? Robin plots the thefts on a map, including a bike. They say, "That was us."
So, you three rubbed shoulders with a white dwarf, eh?
Superman, do you mind telling us what is a white dwarf?
Aquaman, you're closest to the video bank. You do the honors.
Every so often they need to toss him something to do.
Here is a star, vastly bigger than a planet such as Earth, and with a far greater gravitational pull, naturally. But sometimes a strange thing happens to a star. It begins shrinking, until finally it becomes what astronomers call a white dwarf. As you see, it has shrunk to the size of a small planet, but it has become more and more dense. As a result, it still retains its original tremendous gravitational pull.
It's like a giant economy-sized flying magnet.
That's a pretty good summary. I only read DC Comics when something in particular caught my eye, but one character I liked to check out now and then was the Atom. I read enough to know he got his ability to change his size and mass because of a piece of a white dwarf that he found. I never got the details, but that told me what I needed to know. Superman surmises that our villain has gotten his hands on a fragment of one. The Super Friends will split up and check out the various sites, with Batman, Robin, and the kids looking at the probable place where the fragment impacted. It would have to be a tiny fragment, because if the whole thing slammed into us, there'd be nothing left.
Nice going, Wonder Dog. That must be the spot, all right. I can see the locomotive.
And there's the red building and the pickup trucks.
And they've all been neatly laid out by a white dwarf. A white dwarf with a human brain.
Huckleberry Hound once told us about a potato with a brain, so why not? Marvin's bike is there along with everything else that was taken. It takes a special kind of pugilist to fight a floating balloon and lose.
And since a white dwarf can't get up and move away by itself, it means only one thing.
You mean someone's transporting it?
An unbelievable job, Batman. Right, Robin. There would have to be a fantastically complicated gravity shield, for one thing.
Well, who do you think is behind all this, Batman?
I have to say, fair is fair. Everybody does it to everybody else. He has an idea to get their attention.
What I'd like at this point is a clue. Any kind of clue that would... Frozen phantoms, look at that!
It's the abominable snowman.
Yes, junior size model. Let's follow it.
Oh, Wonder Dog, why don't you stop clowning?
If clowning is what it takes, clowning is what it takes. He's just glad he has thick fur.
Hold it, everyone.
Golly, Batman, You look like you're seeing a ghost.
I am. A ghost named Raven.
Raven seems to be an invention purely for this episode. He's here and gone, and there's another character named Raven who's totally different. This guy is a mad scientist type that Superman put away in a very special prison made just for him.
Superman will find this information very intriguing.
Tell Superman not to waste his time looking for me, Batman. At the time and place of my choosing, I'll come looking for him.
You have to love how they all have the same laugh. At his trial, he swore revenge on Superman. But he's in prison, isn't he? The warden assures them that he is, but they want to see for themselves. I wonder what it's like being warden over a population of 1. I know inmates call solitary confinement the hole, but this is ridiculous.
Here is the Raven's nest. And here's the Raven himself. Satisfied now?
Open the cell if you would.
Why, it's...
Yes, Warden, a reasonably exact facsimile of Raven.
How long had it been pacing like that? He uses good batteries.
Still going.
Superman hears something and they all escape the prison right before it disappears.
The prison! There it goes!
But why? And to where?
We'll find out.
There's our wandering jail.
And up there, the bird pulling all the strings.
Let's follow them and see where they're going.
No smokescreen ever devised could block Superman's X-ray vision. But this fantastic cascade of atomic particles is something Superman has never encountered before. He is momentarily blinded.
When they can see again, both the ship and the prison are gone, vanished without a trace.
Later, back at the Hall of the Justice League, Wendy, Marvin, and Wonder Dog listen and watch.
You're looking at a diagram that illustrates how we see an object. These dots moving out from the house represent photons, units of light energy focused on the retina of the eye. And there, the information is transmitted to the brain, which registers its impression of the house.
So we shouldn't be saying the brain is into house, we should be saying the house is into brain. Superman is working a theory for how those things disappeared.
Now just suppose that Raven had created a device that sent out anti-photons, which would arrange themselves into such a dense solid pattern that they would block photons coming from the house. Then you would have what amounts to a visibility shield. The eye would no longer see the house.
According to the physics department at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, antiphotons do exist, but so what? Photons and antiphotons are the same particles. That means what Superman is describing is impossible because photons would be shielding themselves from themselves. I really want to hear him explain that.
But Superman, would the anti-photons block your X-ray vision?
If Raven could create an anti-photon device, he could certainly create reflective mirror-type photons that would deflect even my X-ray vision.
Here's a scientific observation for you. We never saw him try his X-ray vision. A report comes in about a submarine in distress. Some forces pulling them toward nearby shoals and their engines can't fight it. A ride in the Batcopter has Aquaman on site and on the job.
I just had a thought, Superman.
Want to make out?
So did I. They may need help.
That's the very thought.
I don't need any help making out. Oh, you meant... Let's go.
What about us?
Any law says we can't help too?
Good thinking, you three. These flight paths of Raven's spacecraft came in last night.
Yes, post them on the wall map. That'll be a big help.
Gee, thanks for sticking them with the paperwork. They're thrilled.
You'd think that once, just once, they'd include us in on the action.
I guess that answers that question. Aquaman can't stop the sub by himself. There are days when I wonder if he can wipe his nose by himself, but that's another matter. He puts out a call for the most obvious critters that can help, then heads down to the bottom.
His objective? A fabulous Neptune's girdle. Seaweed that grows only in the valleys of the ocean bed. A sea vine so strong it cannot be broken. It can, though, be cut by the diamond-like teeth of the sawfish.
Gotta watch those diamond-like teeth. Diamonds are often round, you know. Neptune's girdle is a homeopathic cure for a fever, except here. I thought I should toss that out in case anybody decides to try and buy some Neptune's girdle and the people stare at them like they're speaking Slabovian. With 3 harnesses fashioned out of the seaweed, Aquaman and his 2 friends start pulling on the sub.
A pair of huge blue whales, 150-ton giants of the whale family, and the most powerful swimmers, too, pulling with every ounce of their combined strengths. Aquaman and the Big Blues wage their tug of war against the forces acting on the sub.
That wasn't so bad, just a little boop.
Can they overcome it?
So, it's Aquaman now. All right, let's see him and his crew of ocean flunkies try to stop this.
Suddenly, the sub is going a different direction.
Sir, is this depth gauge accurate?
I don't know. Why?
Well, if it is, we're now 26 feet above the surface of the ocean.
Hey, the Sea View has a patent on flying subs.
Now, a little higher. Higher yet.
Completely absorbed in his evil plan to control the submarine, Raven is caught short by Superman's and Wonder Woman's sudden arrival. Shocked, the Raven momentarily releases its control, and the sub settles back into the sea.
We'll never know why he wanted to crash that sub because he has other things on his mind.
Now Raven performs the only defensive maneuver left to him. He turns the White Dwarf's gravity field full strength. The crushing blasts of gravitational energy have their effect on Wonder Woman, and momentarily she blacks out. Her airplane goes out of control.
Superman apparently didn't see that because he keeps pushing against the gravity field.
Help! Superman, help!
A distant cry, unheard except by the incredibly sensitive ears of Superman.
Wonder Woman. In trouble?
He catches the plane and hops in.
Hello there, young lady. Coming around?
I must have. Raven, did he get away?
Only for the moment.
It's a well-kept secret, but when Wonder Woman is unconscious, the plane has the ability to yell for help on its own. Remember how they left the kids behind to do busy work? Joke's on them.
Take a look at Raven's flight pass we've posted.
So?
Look! Here's the first flight path, right?
So?
Wait! Here's the second flight path.
I still say, so?
Here's the third flight path, and here's the fourth and last. They all intersect at this one point.
That point is important to Raven for some reason. Since the Super Friends are all off doing stuff, and since Marvin has his bike back, they'll go check it out themselves.
Hey, you! For the last time now, stay off of my property.
Hold on, Paul. That ain't the same fellow was here before.
That's a pair of young'uns.
So it is. Hey, what are you two snoop around here for? Speak up now.
I can honestly say that is the last thing I expected to find there. This is the kind of thing that makes a good comedy show. Humor is based on the unexpected, something that's just so out of place you can't help laughing at it. A hillbilly shack in the middle of nowhere is the object of Raven's focus. Let's have the kids come on in and maybe we can sort this all out. Meet Paul Martingale and his 2 sons.
Fact of the matter is, we thought you was the feller that's been plaguing us.
Real pesky feller.
Just can't seem to take no for an answer.
Marvin.
This pesky feller, was he tall and thin?
Yep,
It's Raven, all right. What does he want from these guys?
the Sky Stone. Go fetch it, Benny.
Here it is, Pa.
I found this a while ago. Or maybe I should say it found me.
He describes a meteor impact not far from him.
It was better than a week before that hole stopped a-smoking. And when it finally did, it seemed to bring on a bumper crop of mushrooms. Anyway, I started digging, and finally, that's how I found the Sky Stone.
Raven has been plaguing him trying to buy it pretty much ever since. I wonder why he doesn't just overpower these guys and take it, but now he won't be able to. The kids will borrow it and show it to Superman.
Hey, wait till you see what Wendy and I...
And he's seen enough of it if it's all the same to you. Now we know what it is and why Raven wants it so much. We get a little summary of what kryptonite is and where it came from. We see a glimpse of Krypton, lush with mushrooms. We watch it blow apart and follow this piece to Paul Martingale's place. They get it put in a lead box real quick. Wendy has a question.
Well, how come Raven wasn't able to snatch up that dinky little cabin?
It's incredible, all right.
Wendy, Marvin, were there any mushrooms near that cabin?
He's right.
We forgot to tell you. There were thousands of them.
We never saw so many mushrooms before. Funny-looking ones, all green and...
Like these mushrooms?
He's not saying.
I've got the picture now. Operation Hitchhiker, right?
Right. Some mushroom spores must have hitched a ride with that kryptonite.
But golly, could mushrooms cancel out gravity?
Not ordinary gravity, such as we have here on Earth.
But the gravity field of a white dwarf, that's possible.
I cannot come up with a joke that makes me laugh more than that does. They'll never come out and say it. They'll hint around and talk as though it's established fact that everybody knows, so they don't have to say it out loud, even though you're supposed to conclude that anti-gravity mushrooms were a thing on Krypton. Colonel What's-His-Face wants the Super Friends to come to Washington for a meeting with some muckamucks. The kids are minding the store.
It's in there, isn't it?
Well, that's where they put it.
Can't we just peek?
Ladies first.
Okay.
Symbol of an ominous pipeline to the Raven, the Death's Head Ring.
That beeping, it's supposed to be an emergency alarm, the very thing the kids dreaded facing without the adults. It'll never come up again. Instead, Marvin will talk to the ring.
Hello?
Superman, where is he?
He's out. He'll be back soon.
Who are you?
Wendy. And this is Marvin. We're friends of the Super Friends.
Friends? I don't think much of the company you keep.
His actual villain name is Captain Obvious. He has a message for Superman.
Ask him how he likes it when the building goes into orbit.
What building?
Oh, wouldn't you like to know that?
Well, yeah, now that you ask. He says it'll be an irreplaceable historic building and it'll happen today at 5. The three of them hop the next plane to Washington, D.C. Too bad the plane is more reliable than the taxi they take in D.C., which gets a flat tire. They don't have time for this.
Wonder Dog, come back!
They don't have time for that either, but they never taught Wonder Dog to tell time. You could still do that in 1973. The Park Service would close the stairs permanently in 1976, mainly because of vandalism and people screwing around and getting hurt. If you're young and healthy and like a good challenge, be sure to thank those people for not being able to do this one.
Wonder Dog, please. It's after visiting hours.
We're not even supposed to be in this building.
Pardon me, but the door was open. Wonder Dog has reached the top, all 896 steps, and he has the cat cornered. Behold the mighty hunter.
Wonder Dog, how many times do I have to tell you that... Did you feel something, Wendy?
Oh, no! What time is it?
5 o'clock sharp.
That's what I figured. Look!
I think we know which building it is, and nobody knows they're in there, including Raven. I suppose it makes sense to grab that one. It looks the most like a missile. But it's not going into orbit. It settles down on a literal flying island. Copyright 1726 by Jonathan Swift.
Who are you?
I'm Marvin, and this is Wonder Dog, and this is Wendy.
We talked together on your ring, remember?
Friends of super friends?
Maybe we should have called before dropping by.
Yeah, if this visit is inconvenient...
No. I'm delighted you came. Welcome to Raven's Island in the sky.
My mistake, different island.
It's fantastic. It's like they're real.
And you made them?
Bah, they're just toys I put together to help with the chores. Let me show you some of my real achievements. Here is an example of my true genius. With this machine, I have outlawed gravity. And with this machine, I can also draw a curtain of invisibility that not even your mighty Superman can see through.
Yeah, they know all that. They also know it comes from a tiny fragment of a white dwarf.
Those precious super friends of yours, they teach you well.
He seems a little deflated. He moves on to his latest and greatest creation.
Here is my greatest achievement. One that I labored years to build.
He invented the football fan air horn.
An instrument designed to do just one job. To detect the smallest presence of kryptonite. And after more years of prospecting with this, I finally located a fragment of the precious stone. That Martingale family, they refused to sell it to me.
He must not know why he can't snatch the cabin, or he'd be buying truckloads of mushrooms from them instead. Speaking of which, Superman has been quizzing the Martingales about the mushrooms, and he's confirmed his suspicions.
Would you mind if I help myself to some of these mushroom spores?
A small operation to transfer the spores, the seeds of the mushroom, to an envelope. Stage 1 of Superman's strategy.
Stage 2, offer a deal.
Raven, are you there, Raven?
I am here.
I have the kryptonite you want, Raven.
I have the Washington Monument, and that's only a starter.
How would you like to trade?
All right, but only if you deliver the kryptonite to me in person, alone.
Yes, I figured you'd want it that way. It's a deal, Raven.
They meet at a neutral point in the sky, and Superman enters Raven's ship. Next thing he knows, they're landing.
Interesting piece of real estate you have here, Raven, complete with Washington's monument and a prison.
Oh, just some things I picked up. All right, let's see how good the celebrated word of Superman is. Where's the kryptonite?
So deftly and casually that it escapes Raven's suspicious eye, Superman scatters the mushroom spores on the ground of Raven's Island.
I see where he's going with this.
It looks like kryptonite. It acts like kryptonite. But only the kryptonite detector can tell if it is kryptonite.
Superman looking like a wet towel isn't confirmation enough for him. His detector verifies that, yes, it's kryptonite.
Wendy, Marvin, a visitor.
Superman!
You didn't tell me.
They arrived accidentally with the Washington Monument, and they'll be returned right after the trial.
What trial?
The trial of Superman versus Raven, of course.
This trial, I'm sorry to say, is neither funny nor interesting. It's one of the few times the show got predictable. Raven is both prosecutor and judge. The jury is 12 of his robots. Wendy and Marvin are Superman's defense counsel. Basically, all they're allowed to say is Superman is the good guy, and then Raven cuts them off. I enjoy the series, and the rest of this episode is fine in spite of the wonky science, but this part is just dull. Raven releases the kids, and while they'd rather not, at Superman's insistence, one of the robots takes them back to the ground. Now it's just the two of them. Raven says, "You're headed for the same cell I was in."
No, I'm not going to occupy your cell.
Really? Why not?
Haven't you noticed? Your island in the sky is sinking.
Oh, no, Superman, that won't work.
Check your instruments.
We have lost a little altitude, but a simple adjustment will fix that.
I'm glad to hear that, because we're falling faster than ever now.
I don't understand.
Look around you, Raven. What's different than it was 2 hours ago? He can't figure it out, and Superman's not about to tell him.
Listen, Superman! I'll make a deal with you!
A deal with a convicted criminal? You wouldn't want to do that.
Oh, we'll crash, Superman!
What do you mean, we? He can fly away any time, or stand there and take it while he watches you turn into a pancake. He's Superman. Your problem is, you're not.
Save me, Superman! Please!
At Kryptonite, toss it overboard, fast, if you want to live.
That's the super friends I've come to admire. That was the only leverage Raven had over him, so let's wrap this up.
You did it! You did it, Superman!
And, best of all, look, it's your old prison cell, waiting for you.
Superman throws the white dwarf fragment into the sun, and that's that. There were a few holes in this one, such as where Superman got the photo of mushrooms on Krypton, or Raven's cell in that prison. When he pulled it up, it had a flat bottom, even though the diagram showing where his cell was means it should at least look something like a Brita filter. The worst part was that trial. The best part was the martingales. That's the sort of thing that's so out there it'll have you laughing for days. As far as I know, white dwarf stars don't come apart. You can't find a piece of one, you get the whole thing or you get none of it. But when you get right down to it, at this time, and even more so in 1961 when the Ray Palmer atom was introduced, we knew these things existed. That was it. So who knew if they could toss off a solar flare that solidified into some impossibly dense material that flew through space until it got here? There's something else we learned about that stuff.
All made possible because of a tiny fragment.
A mission that calls forth all his enormous strength.
If you're not careful, it grows. They'll go check. Summary of from they're in there in crap detector that was makes me my move.